All right, today we're going to take a trip back in time, like 3,000 years back, to explore the incredible art of ancient Egypt. But look, this isn't just about pretty pictures. We're talking about a visual language that was built for gods, for kings, and for an eternal afterlife. A language that, a lot of the time, was never even meant for living eyes to see. So let's just kick things off with a pretty wild question, one that's going to frame this whole journey for us. What if some of the most famous, most breathtaking art ever created was made to be hidden away in a dark tomb forever? I mean, that's the central puzzle of Egyptian art, right? To even begin to get our heads around this, you have to understand one single powerful idea, ma'at. Now, ma'at wasn't just a word, it was this core belief in cosmic harmony, a perfect divine balance that literally held the universe together. So everything they did, from their laws to their art, was all about maintaining that perfect order. Art wasn't just for looking at. It was a tool to keep creation itself from falling apart. And that leads us to something absolutely crucial. Egyptian art always had a job to do. It was, first and foremost, functional. You see, a statue wasn't just a carving of a person, it was a physical home for their soul after they died. A painting on a tomb wall wasn't just a nice scene. It was like a magical menu that would guarantee they had food and drink for all of eternity. Yeah, it had to be beautiful, but its function, that was everything. So where did this incredibly unique way of seeing the world even begin? Let's go all the way back to the dawn of Egyptian civilization and see how they forged this powerful visual language, perfecting a style that was so strong it would last for literally thousands of years. Okay, check this out. This is one of the earliest masterpieces we have, the Narmer palette. And it's not just a pretty object. It's basically a press release carved in stone. It's celebrating the moment King Narmer united all of Egypt. And you can see it right there in the design. It's so balanced, so symmetrical. That's Ma'at in action, showing order winning out over chaos. This is art as a huge political and religious statement. Now we're jumping into the Old Kingdom. This is the era of the pyramid builders, the big stuff. And because there was such a strong central government, art really became a tool of the state. The style was basically dictated from the very top, which led to this incredible uniformity all across the kingdom. Everyone was working from the same idealized playbook. And this is a perfect way to see what I mean. On the one hand, you've got this life-size statue of King Djoser. On the other, a tiny little ivory figure of King Khufu. They were made decades apart, they're completely different in scale, but look at them. The artistic formula is identical, static, powerful, eternal. This wasn't because they couldn't think of anything else to do. It was a deliberate, powerful statement about the pharaoh being a timeless, unchanging god on earth. But, things change. That powerful central government eventually fell apart, and Egypt entered what historians called the First Intermediate Period. And yeah, it was a time of political chaos, but for art, it was a moment of incredible, explosive change and innovation. This period really makes you rethink what good art even means. For a long time, art from this era was just dismissed as, crude or poorly made. But it wasn't a decline. It was a diversification. Without one pharaoh telling everyone what to make, regional artists were suddenly free to experiment. It wasn't a dark age. It was a creative free-for-all. And all this creative freedom led to something totally unexpected. The afterlife became available to more people. Local workshops started pumping out funerary goods, like these little guys, Shopti dolls. The idea was they were magical servants who would do all your manual labor in the afterlife. And all of a sudden, preparing for eternity wasn't just for the super rich anymore. All right, so after that period of chaos, Egypt gets its act together again, reunites, and kicks off the Middle and New Kingdoms. And these were eras of unbelievable wealth, empire building, and some of the most radical artistic shifts in Egypt's entire history. The reunified Middle Kingdom. A lot of people call this Egypt's cultural golden age. And in terms of art, it was just unbelievably sophisticated. But something deeper was changing too. For really the first time, artists started to look beyond just gods and kings and began to explore what it meant to be human. And you can really see that change right here. It's night and day. In the Old Kingdom, the pharaoh was always perfect, young, a flawless god. But now, in the Middle Kingdom, you get rulers like Senusret III shown with this shocking realism. He looks tired, careworn, almost burdened. This was a revolution in portraiture. It was about the reality of ruling, not just the divine ideal. Next up, the New Kingdom. This is when Egypt becomes a full-blown empire. And as its borders expanded, so did its art. They started absorbing ideas and technologies from other cultures, like the Hyksos and the Hittites. This brought in all kinds of new techniques, especially in metalworking, that would totally transform Egyptian art. And the sheer wealth of this new empire was put on display through pure jaw-dropping scale. I mean, just look at the colossi of Memnon. Each one of those statues weighs 720 tons. Each one. This wasn't just art anymore. It was a statement of power that no one on Earth could ignore. And then things get weird. In one of the most dramatic twists in art history, the pharaoh Akhenaten comes along and just throws the entire religion out the window. And when he got rid of the old gods, he got rid of the old art rules too. He pushed for this new, almost strange and exaggerated style of realism. This very brief, very rebellious period gave us some of the most famous pieces of art in the world. The bust of Nefertiti, that's the absolute pinnacle of the Amarna style, so graceful, so lifelike. And even though the famous golden mask of King Tut, Akhenaten's son, was a step back toward tradition, that incredible metalwork shows off all the new skills they learned from being an empire. Now, Akhenaten's big revolution, it didn't last. But Egyptian art just kept on evolving. In the later periods, you see this fascinating push and pull between wanting to go back to the good old days and dealing with the influence of all the new foreign powers taking over. And you can see this incredible pattern playing out over the centuries. As new rulers came in, Kushites, Persians, Greeks, and then the Romans, they all had to figure out what to do with this massive artistic legacy. Some of them tried to copy the old styles to make themselves seem more legitimate. Others blended their own traditions with Egyptian ones, creating these amazing, beautiful, new hybrid styles. And this really brings us to the lasting impact of it all. This story didn't just end when the last pharaoh died. The Egyptian ideas about form, balance, and what art is for, they flowed like the Nile itself, right into Greek and Roman culture. And from there, they helped build the very foundations of Western art for more than 1,000 years. We're still living with the echoes of their vision today. Which leaves us with one last thing to chew on. The Egyptians were driven by Ma'at, this idea of a perfect, divine balance meant to last forever. It shaped every single thing they made. So it really makes you wonder, what are the big principles shaping our art today? And what kind of legacy is that going to leave for the future?